She laughed at a black prisoner, thinking he was beneath her. But when the alarms went off and chaos erupted, the man she mocked became her only hope. And this story will change how you see judgment, pride, and redemption forever. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that will make you feel something real. The clang of steel doors echoed through Ravenwood State Penitentiary, a sound that never got old, never got quiet, and never stopped reminding everyone inside where they were. Devon Harris had learned to live with that sound. He'd been in for almost 3 years. Armed robbery, a mistake born of desperation, and a friend's betrayal. But Devon wasn't the man who entered these walls. He kept his head down now, working in the prison's mechanical workshop. He'd earned quiet respect from a few guards for fixing things without complaint. But to others, he was still just another black inmate with a record and a shadow. One of those others was Officer Lauren Hayes. Lauren had been at Ravenwood for 6 years. Young but hardened, she had a way of walking the corridors like the rules themselves followed her footsteps. To the inmates, she was all business. No warmth, no conversation, no smiles. Her reputation wasn't cruel but cold. She had a reason for that. She'd seen what happens when you start treating prisoners like people. You lose control, you lose respect, and sometimes you lose your life. Lauren's partner that week was Officer Jake Miller, a talkative, easygoing guard who'd been friendly with some inmates before. Jake often told her she was too tense, but she didn't care. To Lauren, control was safety, and sympathy was weakness. That morning, the sirens hadn't gone off yet. Everything was routine: breakfast trays, roll call, and the clang of the workshop gate opening. Devon was already at his station, fixing a ventilation fan. Sweat glistened on his arms, his brown eyes focused, his hands steady. Lauren and Jake patrolled the area. She kept her gaze sharp, scanning movements, counting heads. Jake was chatting idly with one of the mechanics when Devon called out, "Hey, Officer Hayes, that breaker over there's sparking again. If it trips the vent system, we'll have smoke all over the room." Lauren barely looked his way. "Do your job, Harris. The maintenance crew will handle it." "I am the maintenance crew," he replied, half smiling. She turned, lips tightening. "Don't get smart. You're a prisoner, not an electrician. Stay in your lane." Jake glanced over, uneasy. "He's not wrong, Lauren. That line's been glitching for weeks." Lauren shook her head. "And what are we gonna do? Take advice from prisoners now?" Devon just sighed, picked up his wrench, and went back to work. He'd seen that look before, the kind of look that said, "I don't care if you're right. I just won't let you be right." As the hours dragged on, the air in the workshop grew warmer. The hum of machines and the metallic ring of tools created an uneasy rhythm. Devon kept glancing at the breaker box across the wall, its lights flickering irregularly. Something wasn't right. By lunch, Jake had gone to the security post, leaving Lauren to supervise alone. She stood near the main door, clipboard in hand, while the inmates worked in silence. Devon's instincts screamed at him to act. He put down his wrench and walked cautiously toward her. "Officer Hayes," he said carefully, "I'm telling you, if that breaker blows, it's not just gonna cut power. The exhaust fans will jam. We're surrounded by flammable solvents in here. One spark—" She looked up sharply, eyes cold. "You think I don't know how to do my job, Harris? I'm just saying, don't." Her voice cut through the air like a blade. "I don't take advice from prisoners." The workshop went silent. Every inmate turned, sensing the tension. Devon's jaw flexed, but he swallowed his frustration. He nodded slowly. "All right," he said, voice steady. "Your call." He turned back to his station, but his eyes never left that breaker. It was a bad feeling, one he couldn't shake. The next hour crawled by. The heat built up, sweat dripping from faces, the hum of electricity mixing with tension. And then, pop, a sharp crack. The lights flickered. The fans above stuttered and died. Lauren spun around. "What was that?" Devon's voice was low, urgent. "That's what I was trying to tell you." Before she could respond, another bang erupted from the breaker. A flash of orange lit the corner. Fire. Someone screamed. "Everyone back!" "Move! Move!" Lauren shouted, fumbling for her radio. Static hissed. No signal. The power outage had killed the comms in that section. Smoke began filling the room fast, black and choking. The solvent fumes turned the air toxic. The only working vent was on the far side, near the flames. Devon grabbed a cloth covering his mouth. He ran toward the storage cabinet. Lauren barked, "Harris!
Get back!"
If I don't fix that, we're all done." He shouted back. She hesitated, torn between protocol and survival. Then another explosion shook the room, sending shards of glass across the floor. She ducked, coughing violently. Through the haze, she saw Devon wrenching open the breaker panel, sparks flying around him. He was working fast, improvising with a stripped wire, hands shaking from heat.
"You'll kill yourself,"
she shouted. He didn't stop. "You wanted me to stay in my lane. Well, my lane keeps people alive." She froze, realizing she'd been wrong. Completely wrong. Another inmate fainted from the smoke. Lauren rushed over, dragging him toward the exit, but the door mechanism was jammed. The fire had melted the lock system. Devon saw it too. He yanked a heavy wrench, slammed it into the release lever, metal groaning under impact. With a burst of strength, the door creaked open just enough to push people through. "Go!" he yelled at Lauren. "What about you?" "I'll be right behind you." She hesitated only a second, then helped two inmates through. When she turned back, Devon was still by the panel, sparks lighting his face. One last twist of the wire, and the fans roared back to life. Smoke began clearing, flames dying as oxygen flow changed direction. But Devon collapsed. Lauren rushed to him, kneeling beside his burnt hands.
"Hey, Harris!
"Stay with me." His eyes fluttered open, faint smile forming. "Told you." The breaker was bad. She let out a shaky laugh, tears mixing with soot. "You idiot! You saved us!" Jake burst in with reinforcements, shouting orders, dousing what was left of the flames. When he saw Lauren cradling Devon, his face went pale. What the hell happened? Lauren looked down at Devon, then back at Jake. Her voice trembled but carried a new weight. "He happened. He saved every one of us." Later that night, after the smoke cleared and the emergency was over, Lauren sat outside the infirmary, her uniform still stained with soot. She replayed everything in her head, the look in Devon's eyes when she dismissed him, his calm under chaos, the moment he chose to save her instead of running for safety. Jake came by, holding 2 cups of coffee. "They say he'll be okay. Burns, but nothing too bad." Lauren nodded silently. Jake smirked softly. "You know, I never thought I'd see you speechless." She glanced at him. "He warned me." "I didn't listen," Jake shrugged. "Most people wouldn't have." Lauren stared at the infirmary window where Devon lay. "That's the problem." The next morning, Lauren walked into the infirmary. Devon was awake, bandaged, sitting up slowly. He looked at her, half expecting the same cold tone as before. Instead, she said quietly, "You saved my life." He chuckled, hoarse from smoke. "Guess you'll take advice from a prisoner now?" She smiled for the first time. "From you, yeah. Outside." The sun hit the prison yard, light through barbed wire, soft but steady. Inside, something had changed. 2 people, divided by walls and uniforms, had found something rare inside a place built to destroy trust, respect. The following week at Ravenwood felt different. The air was still thick with smoke residue, the smell of burnt metal clinging to the corridors. But something else hung in the air too, whispers. Every inmate knew what Devon had done. Word spread fast inside those walls. How the quiet guy from the workshop had saved a guard, saved them all. Some called him a hero, others called him a fool. And a few, the ones who lived off hate and envy, didn't like the idea of a black prisoner being seen as a savior in a place that thrived on hierarchy and fear. For Devon, that week was strange. He was back in the infirmary, arms bandaged, while nurses moved around him. He'd been offered early release consideration for heroic conduct, but he didn't believe in promises. The system had promised him a lot before. What really stuck in his mind was Lauren Hayes. The woman who once wouldn't look him in the eye now visited him every evening. The first time she'd brought him coffee. She stood at the door awkwardly, cup in hand. "They said you could use this," she muttered. Devon smiled faintly. "Appreciate it. Thought I was still on your ignore list," she exhaled. "I deserve that," he chuckled softly. "Nah, you just didn't know me." Their eyes met, short, cautious, but honest. Days passed, and Lauren found herself thinking about Devon more than she wanted to. She'd spent years believing prisoners were all the same, dangerous, manipulative, liars. But Devon didn't fit any of that. He had a calmness, a quiet strength she couldn't deny, Jake noticed. "You've been visiting the infirmary a lot lately," he said one afternoon, leaning against her desk. "Something you want to tell me?" Lauren glared. "Don't start. Come on, I get it. The guy saved your life. Just make sure it doesn't turn into some redemption fantasy, all right? He's still an inmate." She hated how Jake's words hit her.
Because part of her knew he was right, but another part, a deeper part, didn't care about uniforms or walls anymore. 2 weeks later, Devon was cleared to return to work.
His bandages had come off, leaving faint burn scars along his forearms. When he walked back into the workshop, everyone looked. Some nodded, some smirked, and one inmate in particular, Rico Davis, glared. Rico was trouble. A tall, broad-shouldered inmate with a snake tattoo wrapping around his neck. He'd run the black market trade inside Ravenwood for years. He didn't like heroes, especially not ones who made guards see inmates differently. That afternoon, Rico cornered Devon near the tool racks. "So you're the guard's golden boy now?" Rico sneered. "Saving white women to get brownie points?" Devon stayed calm. "I didn't do it for points." "Yeah? Then why's she always talking to you? Why's she always checking up like you her little project?" Devon stepped back slightly, keeping his voice level. "Watch your mouth, Rico," Rico smirked. "Or what, you'll fix the lights again?" Devon didn't answer. He just walked away, but inside he knew things were going to get ugly. Meanwhile, Lauren was fighting her own battle. After the fire, Internal Affairs began investigating the safety failure. While Devon had been hailed for his bravery, the report pointed out that Lauren had ignored a direct warning that could have prevented the incident. One evening, the warden called her into his office. "Officer Hayes, you've always been reliable," Warden Thompson began. "But the department is questioning your judgment that day. You dismissed an inmate's safety concern, then nearly lost your life. That's not the kind of leadership we can overlook." Lauren's throat tightened. "Sir, with all due respect, I take full responsibility. But Harris saved us. If not for him." "I know," Thompson interrupted. "And that's exactly why this is complicated."
You'll remain on duty, but expect disciplinary review.
"Understood?" She nodded, but her chest burned with anger. Not because of the punishment, but because the system couldn't admit that an inmate might have done something honorable. That night, she visited the workshop again. Devon was working alone, wiping grease off a wrench. "You should be resting," she said softly. He smiled. "Guess I don't know how to sit still," she hesitated. "They're blaming me for the fire. Not officially, but you know how it goes." Devon looked up, eyes serious. "You warned me not to get involved in things that don't concern me. Now it's my turn. Don't carry all that alone." She laughed weakly. "You sound like Jake." "Jake's smarter than he looks," Devon said, smirking. That made her laugh for real this time. For a few seconds, they weren't guard and prisoner. They were just two people trapped in the same broken system, finding brief peace in the chaos. But peace at Ravenwood never lasted long. A few nights later, the alarms blared again, not for fire, but for a fight. Devon had been walking back to his cell when he heard shouting down the corridor. He saw Rico and two others cornering another inmate, fists flying. When a guard's voice echoed down the hall, they scattered. But not before Rico glanced back at Devon and hissed, "You're next, hero." The next day, during inspection, a sharp piece of metal was found under Devon's bunk. It was crude but dangerous, enough for the warden to classify it as a weapon. Devon protested. "That's not mine." "Someone planted it," but the guards didn't listen. Procedure was procedure. Lauren was furious when she heard. She stormed into the security office. "You really think Harris would hide a weapon after saving half this block?" she shouted. The sergeant shrugged. "Rules are rules." "He's going to isolation until the review." She slammed her fist on the desk. "You're making a mistake." "Then prove it," the sergeant said flatly. "Otherwise, he's just another prisoner with a story." Isolation was a steel box. No sound, no light, no time. Devon sat there for hours, maybe days, thinking about how fast respect turned into suspicion. It didn't matter what he'd done. In their eyes, He was still a number in an orange jumpsuit. But what hurt most wasn't the silence. It was wondering if Lauren believed him. Lauren did believe him. She spent 2 nights combing through security footage from the workshop. Frame by frame, she watched everything. Devon leaving, the fight, Rico walking by his bunk later. And there it was. A glint of metal in Rico's hand, slipping under Devon's mattress. She exhaled shakily. "Got you." She brought the footage to Warden Thompson herself. "You're sure about this?" he asked. Lauren's voice was steady. "I'm sure. Devon Harris didn't do anything wrong." Thompson nodded slowly. "Then he's free to return to Gen Pop. But Hayes, why are you going this far for him?" Lauren looked down for a moment, then back up. "Because he's earned it." When Devon was finally released from isolation, Lauren was waiting outside. He looked rough, eyes tired, face drawn, but still carried that quiet dignity. "Guess you pulled some strings," he said with a half smile. Lauren shook her head. "No strings. Just truth," he chuckled softly. "Truth's rare in here." "Yeah," she said. "So is trust." For the first time, they shared a look that wasn't bound by walls or titles. It wasn't flirtation or pity. It was something deeper. Mutual respect, born from fire and fear, tested by injustice. But neither of them knew what was coming next, because somewhere deep in Ravenwood, Rico wasn't done. And this time, he wasn't planning a fight. He was planning revenge. It started with a whisper in the night. Devon had been back in general population for barely 2 days when a commotion erupted near the workshop. Rico Davis wasn't subtle. He wanted everyone to see his plan unfold. He'd recruited a few inmates who still resented Devon's hero status and his alliance with Lauren. Their target, Devon, and anyone foolish enough to stand with him. Devon was wiping down machinery when he heard the first shout. "Harris!" He turned and saw Rico slamming a heavy metal pipe against the wall. The sound echoed sharp and terrifying. Around him, other inmates began circling, their faces twisted with anticipation. Lauren had been on patrol nearby. When she saw the chaos, her heart jumped. She sprinted toward the scene, radio in hand, but it was dead. The sabotage from weeks earlier had caused intermittent failures in the comms again. Rico sneered at Devon. "Thought you were smart, huh? Thought you could get the guards on your side?" "I'm not here to fight you, Rico," Devon said calmly. "Oh, you're gonna fight!" Rico spat, swinging the pipe. The first strike came fast and Devon barely ducked, rolling to the side and grabbing a wrench for defense. Metal clashed, sparks flew, and the sound of fists hitting metal echoed through the corridor. Lauren arrived just in time to see Rico raise his weapon toward Devon. Instinct kicked in. She grabbed a fire extinguisher and swung it, hitting Rico squarely in the shoulder. He staggered but didn't fall. "Run, Devon!" she yelled, pulling 2 nearby inmates behind cover. But Devon didn't move. He had learned to anticipate Rico's attacks. With a swift motion, he dodged a swinging pipe and tripped Rico into a stack of crates. The crash sent tools flying everywhere. "You're finished!" Rico snarled, scrambling to stand. "Not today," Devon replied, voice low but steady. Lauren noticed a flammable chemical canister near Rico. One spark, and the hallway could ignite like before. Her mind raced. "Devon! The canister!" she shouted. Without hesitation, Devon lunged forward, grabbing the canister and moving it behind a reinforced wall out of reach. Sparks from the pipe fight had started igniting small flames on the crates, and smoke was beginning to fill the corridor. Rico, enraged, charged again, but Devon was ready. He sidestepped, using Rico's momentum to slam him into the wall. The fight left both men bruised and bloodied, but Devon's focus never wavered. Lauren, realizing the danger, sprayed extinguisher foam at the small flames, pushing them back. The combination of quick thinking and brute strength gave them a momentary advantage. Suddenly, Rico pulled a hidden knife. Devon froze, eyes narrowing. "Lauren, behind you!" Lauren ducked just as Rico lunged at Devon, blade glinting. In a split second, Devon twisted the knife from Rico's hand. Tossing it across the room, Rico screamed in rage. Then charged again, but Devon grabbed a heavy wrench, swinging with precise force that knocked Rico unconscious. The hallway was filled with smoke, the clang of fallen metal and the smell of scorched chemicals. Devon and Lauren were both panting, bruised and coated in soot, but alive. As the chaos settled, other guards and officers rushed in, alerted by the lingering alarms. Rico and his accomplices were restrained. Devon leaned against a wall, catching his breath. Lauren approached him slowly. Her face was streaked with soot and sweat, but her eyes were fixed on him. "You did it. You saved everyone again," she said, voice shaking. Devon chuckled weakly, his lips cracked and dirty. "Guess I still know my lanes." Lauren shook her head, a tear escaping her eye. "No, you go above and beyond every lane." For the first time, the barrier between guard and prisoner, fear and respect, authority and redemption, vanished completely. They had faced danger together, survived together, and the trust between them was unbreakable. The warden arrived, surveying the scene. He nodded at Devon. "I see what you did here. That courage. That's more than most will ever show." Devon shrugged, exhaustion heavy on his shoulders. "Just doing what had to be done." Lauren stepped beside him, hand brushing against his. Not as a guard or a prisoner, but as someone who had finally seen the truth in another human being. The smoke began to clear. The chaos subsided, and in the distance, Ravenwood seemed just a little less suffocating, just a little more alive. The chaos of Rico's attack had passed, but the aftermath lingered in every hallway of Ravenwood. Smoke had cleared, bruises were healing, and the alarm systems were finally repaired. Yet the most profound changes were not visible. They were in the minds and hearts of those who survived. Devon Harris returned to the workshop one last time as a hero. Officers and inmates alike gave him nods of respect, not a hollow respect, but one earned through courage, intelligence, and moral strength. Even those who had doubted him quietly acknowledged his actions. Lauren Hayes, still shaken by the events, approached Devon with a file in hand. "You're officially cleared of the isolation incident." Warden Thompson filed an addendum acknowledging Rico planted the weapon. Devon smiled faintly, rubbing his bandaged forearms. "About time. Guess justice has its way in here. Sometimes." "You earned more than that," Lauren said softly. "You earned respect, trust, maybe even freedom someday." They both paused, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. Neither needed to define their relationship beyond what had already been built: mutual understanding, empathy, and admiration. Rico Davis faced full consequences. His assault and attempted framing of Devon led to extended sentences and solitary confinement. Ravenwood made it clear. His reign of intimidation was over. For Devon, the fire, the weapon framing, and Rico's revenge were painful reminders of life inside the prison, but also a proof of his resilience. He had been underestimated, dismissed, and threatened, but he had survived, saved lives, and earned a new kind of respect, not just from the guards, but from himself. Lauren, meanwhile, became an advocate for better communication between officers and inmates, using her own near-death experience to push for safety reforms. She never forgot the lessons Devon had taught her: bravery. Intelligence and humanity don't always wear a uniform. Weeks later, as the prison yard bathed in the afternoon sun, Devon and Lauren stood side by side, not as prisoner and guard, but as survivors of a fire, as witnesses to courage and morality beyond labels. "You know," Devon said with a small grin, "I never thought you'd visit the workshop more than twice." Lauren laughed softly. "Guess you're full of surprises." "Yeah," he replied. "And so are you." The prison walls, still high and intimidating, now seemed less like a cage and more like a proving ground, a place where character could shine despite circumstance. And as the sun set over Ravenwood, one thing was certain: sometimes trust and respect come from the most unexpected places, and heroes can rise where no one expects them, even in the darkest corners.